Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to Versus Stars podcast. Our my loyal listeners, thank you for continued support. And remember, click subscribe button, everybody. It's an amazing episode called Nuala Cleary boards the mothership. Nowhere from the crowded room. Come on board as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Miss Cleary. Thank you so much for coming to Versus Stars podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Totally my pleasure. So I always start off with the question of inspiration. So inspire your love of acting and who your earliest influences.
Ooh, that's a really good question. Probably my parents and my best friend Indigo. She's not an actor, but she's one of the bravest people I know. And I was a really shy kid, so she was the one that did the theater and did plays and things like that as a young kid. And she encouraged me to come out of my shell. And my mom is an actor and a jazz singer, and my father is a deep sea diver. So he's I have this artful side of me and this adventurous side of me. So I get a lot of inspiration from my parents.
So do you still keep in touch with your friend? You said Indigo?
Yeah.
Yeah, you still keep
Yeah.
in touch?
No, yeah, she's my best friend in the whole world. I've known her since I was 3 or 4. She lives in London now, but yeah, we stay in touch. We talk all the time.
That's cool. And like I said, when I was going to your background, as you mentioned, your father's a deep sea diver. Your mother is a jazz singer. You said as an actor, so you got some serious gutsy blood in your genes right there. So
that's for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, what was that experience like? I mean, because they're neither one is doing a normal job whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
Well, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So did everything then just seem normal? Like going to something like acting or something else that's extremely risky just seemed like a normal not thing just to do because apparently your parents do unusual jobs as well.
Right. Well, it's funny because my parents are so I can preface, are extremely supportive of me in my career. But when I was a child, they really didn't want me to go into this business. One, because my mom knows the business somewhat, and my dad knows what it's like to be married to it. And it's a hard industry, and it can really take a toll on your self-confidence because it's just so much rejection. And who wants that for their child? But my dad always described it as trying to take a duck out of the water, so they really couldn't do anything about it. But I think what influenced me the most of having them and as my parents and the careers that they're in is the lesson that they've always taught me as a young child, which is to just jump in. And if you fall and you fail, then you fail, and then you get right back up on your feet. So I think they've given me that strength to enter this business, which is it's a tough one, that's for sure. Especially I was in drama school for 4 years at Carnegie Mellon, and halfway through the pandemic hit, and so that basically changed the whole industry. And as we all know, everyone kind of got their own piece of the shit pie of that. So but the hopefulness of it all, because both of their careers is very gutsy, as you said. So
Yeah.
yeah, I found a lot of inspiration from them.
So when you were talking about being an actor and they were like, that's risky, where you're like, well, you
I
guys.
was like, yeah, and I was like, yeah, but look at you guys. And then, yeah, okay.
but that's but what kind of advice was your mother able to give you about the business? Because as you said, she's kind of in it as both a singer and you said an actor as well. So
Yeah.
what kind of warning did she give? What kind of things did she tell you to look out for? Which stuff did she say? This is going to be something to look forward to.
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, she told me many things of what to look out for and what to be careful about. Um, I don't think she really had to tell me what to look forward to, because I was already I was already so excited about everything. And I think probably what she warned me about was the rejection aspect of it. Because that's pretty much the job. But not the rejection is the job, but auditioning and not taking things personally also, because I think you can totally question yourself of, oh, I got so close to this role, what was it about me that they didn't want? Am I why don't they want me? And everyone struggles with that in life in general. So I actually think it was a really beautiful lesson. It is a really beautiful lesson that being in this career gives me, because it helps me not take things personally and to, stay true to who I am, because if I'm trying to be someone else, that's another thing that she told me. If I'm trying to do something else and do what I think they want, and just not being entirely true to myself, then I'm half-assing something when I could be actually diving into the deep end. Not to use the pun. But yeah, that's my answer.
I can't imagine that. I imagine that acting is a lot like baseball. That if you get 3 hits out of 10, you're like an all-star. I assume acting is like a similar percentage where most of the entire experience is going to be technically failure. I mean, failure might not be the right word, but it's technically failure because you're not going to get most parts that you're going to try out for. Is
right,
that
failure?
Yeah. I mean, how do you mentally prepare yourself for that long wait between getting certain parts, and I imagine do they always tell you why you didn't get a part, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they tell you. I think it's easier when you're just auditioning, but when you get close to a role, that's when it gets really hard, because you sort of start to make space for it in your life and in your mind, and you start to prepare to get this role. And when it doesn't happen, it is heartbreaking in a way, but that is a really great gift that drama school taught me. Because when I was in high school, and I was doing these things for fun, and because it came from such a pure, just loving place in my heart. But now it became a job, and it became something that I really, really had to work on, and it became my life. So I think it's highly important for any artist to also have other outlets. That if the job is acting, then okay, yes, focus on it, but it can be really hard if that's your only outlet, because it is a lot of rejection and you won't work all the time. But for me personally, it's music, and I compose and write a lot of music, and that's a really good way for me to sort of express myself in a different outlet than acting, which is also a really great outlet as well. But it's here and there sometimes. And so keeping your spirits up creatively and doing something. I remember Jessica Chastain said this in an interview once or twice, where she said, I try to do something every day that makes me feel like I'm an actor and reminds me that I am an actor and I'm an artist. And that lives with me. I think about that every day and try my best to do something every day that makes me feel like an actor.
So can you give me an example of that? Like something that you're doing that you, I mean, outside, I mean, obviously when you're rehearsing, obviously when you're auditioning, that makes you feel like an actor. But when you don't have the role and you're not auditioning, what is it that you're doing to feel like an actor?
Well, there are different things. And honestly, self-tapes and auditions help a lot. And I'm very thankful to get the auditions that I get frequently. In other ways, it's going to the theater if you can afford it, or it's reading plays, or it's working on a script that you're writing, or doing something with your friends. That's another thing that I got from drama school, which is your peers can really inspire you. And some people make short films together, and do things that are just fun, that make you feel like you're sinking your teeth into something and it's creative, and that this career auditioning isn't your world, isn't your entire world. It's a big part of it, and it's really important to prioritize it, absolutely. But again, to have other ways to make you feel like you feel when you get a job, I think is really important.
Now, as you mentioned, you also compose and you're a lyricist as well. So where did the music come first as a love, or was it acting? And where did you get training for your composition?
Well, I didn't have any training on my composition, actually. Music came first. If I'm thinking all the way back to when I was a baby, it was music that brought me into the world of storytelling, that brought me into the world of film and TV, which became my love. And then music became something that I felt very protective of, because that was it is so therapeutic for me, as cheesy as it sounds, but when I started writing, it was because I was just feeling so much that I had to express it in another way. And if it couldn't be through a story in a play or a show, then music, I think, is such a brilliant tool, combining music and poetry and putting them together. So it kind of, I haven't really had training. I taught myself how to play music. My mom helped me a lot. And the lyrics, I guess I started writing when I was in college, and it was one of those pour your heart out sort of things that I do for myself, really.
So when you talk about composing, is that something you're looking to do professionally at some point as well, or is this something just as an outlet?
I would love to do that. I would love to combine the two loves, you know? I think for the right project, I would absolutely be head over heels excited to do that. Yeah, 100%.
Now, you said you're also a writer as well. So are you writing a script that you're going to be able to star in and make the music for at some point in the future?
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm more of a songwriter than I am a screenplay writer or a script writer, but I do collaborate with a lot of my friends who are really good writers. Not to say that I'm a terrible one, but I'm not as good as them. And you know, I love it's one of those things that we do to make ourselves feel creative together and create stories. So yes, working on a couple scripts with those people that will hopefully be produced one day and we can all play.
So as a composer and lyricist and screenwriter and actor, how do each of these things stretch different creative muscles for you, and how do you get to use those muscles in other facets of your creative life?
I think it's important to be able to stretch all of those muscles, because there is so much more to the job of acting than you know what you're hired for. And I love learning about all the different aspects of what it is like to be on a film set, or what it's like to be in a play or a musical. And so I may not necessarily have all of those skills to do lighting and rig work, or or writing a script, but I think it's important to try new things and see how it also affects your acting skills, because when you approach it from a different angle, I think you see it from a different perspective. I think it opens my eyes sometimes to different emotions of how I would play a scene by just reading off of the script, rather than maybe I'll make a song about the scene, or and try and figure out how to approach the character. And I think it's fun. I think it's fun figuring out different ways to do it, rather than a different kind of tech. It's almost like a different kind of text work, I feel like.
That's cool. And I mean, obviously you've been successful. You now appear as Eden in The Crowded Room. So how did you get involved in the series, and what was interesting about The Crowded Room?
Oh, Crowded Room is very interesting. I loved this script as soon as I read it. My audition process was also fascinating. It was one of the most interesting auditions or callbacks that I've ever experienced, with Cornell, the director, one of our directors. I auditioned with a very short scene with Eden. It was one of her scenes where she was just being mean.
Good word.
And it was very brief. Thank you. And then I got a call back a few months later, and they sent me all of these scripts, and I sat, and it was a few days before the callback, and I sat down, I was reading, and I remember my mom walking in to me sobbing because I was reading these scripts, and I was like, this is some of the most beautiful writing I've ever seen. And it's really, Akiva Goldsman does a brilliant job of tying this whole story together. But they sent me the scripts, they sent me more materials to learn, and I learned all of them. And then I had my meeting with Cornell, and he said, I just, want to get to know you as a person. What was your childhood like? And we didn't read any scripts. We didn't read any scenes. It was just kind of getting to know you. And one of the questions I think was, can you describe your summer as a child in only colors, or it was something like that. It was very, and I was eating it up because it felt like home. It felt like
Right, right.
I was my it felt drama schooly, like,
Mm.
just coming at it from a different angle
Yep.
than just doing a callback, getting to know each other, which is also so lovely, and getting to do the scenes. But I know a couple of other stories that from my castmates that are also crazy. I know Emma Laird has a wild story about her callback with Cornell, similar in its, how in approach that was just very different than I've ever experienced. So that was awesome. And I was actually I was in the middle of working on these other callbacks that I was up for a role on this TV series, and they hadn't decided between me and this other girl, but the Crowder Room, they waited for me, which was so nice of them, and then and I was so grateful for, and I ended up going with the Crowder Room, and I couldn't be happier. A week later, cast dinner happened, and then a read through, which I had never done for a TV show before, which was so awesome. We got to meet the whole cast, which is nice because you don't always get to interact with everybody on set. And then a couple weeks later, we started filming, and it was on and off until August for me.
So
So yeah.
when you finally get the call back and you got the role of Eden, so what were you told about the character of Eden? Because I mean, you're being nice. We call her mean. She's a bitch. I mean, we'll just be honest about the character. But she's got to have more to her than that for you to perform the character. So what were you
Oh
told
yeah.
about Eden in order to play her as more than just a two-dimensional bitch?
Well, it's a great question. For me, immediately reading the script, I had to ask myself, why is she being so mean? Because
Mm.
any bully is really just a coward and is just an insecure person on the inside and is scared. And so I was like, why is she scared? And in my head, I have this little love story going on with Emma Laird's character,
Mm.
Annabelle. So that was what was happening internally for me. I don't think it has nothing to do with the story, but for me, I think it's the 70s. She's maybe a popular girl. Her new best friend is being taken away by some weirdo. Um, and I'm jealous. And I don't know if I want to be her or make out with her.
Mm.
So that's where I was coming from. And I think love can make people really mean. So that was what was happening internally for me.
So I mean, is it so it's selfishness or is it protectiveness that is then guiding her in that scenario?
I think I think it's both, but I think it's a little bit more selfishness. She
Mm.
wants to be Annabelle's person that she goes and hangs out on the swing with and smokes weed, not the little weirdo over there. Um, I think
The-
that's how she pictures it, Eden.
and for the listeners who may not know, it's the character you're talking about. I assume is Danny's the weirdo, who played by Tom
Yes.
Holland. So, and for the listeners who may not know, that the Crowded Room is based on a book that is then based on a true story. So, how familiar were you with this history, and how familiar with it did you become after getting the role?
Very familiar. I actually, it was quite interesting because I became really obsessed with learning about DID because I had never really learned. I knew it existed, but it was way before this audition even happened.
Hmm.
So I had done all this research for some reason. Sometimes I just do this, but because I found it so interesting of people with dissociative identity disorder. And I watched this documentary before I auditioned for the Crowded Room, and then I watched it again. The documentary is very interesting, and I think it is very different than the way that this show plays out because I think the goal of this story is to represent people who are going through some sort of mental illness and make people empathize with them more and
Mhm.
not not villainize them like some movies have in the past with DID. But yeah, I was very familiar with the story. I found it fascinating, and so when I read this script, I was so excited by
So
this idea.
so having known the history of Danny and what's going on, did that impact how you approached the role in the show, knowing that backstory of the real Danny?
Well, I knew the importance
Mm.
of um, making the audience love Danny and feel for him. And so in that first episode, Eden doesn't care what's going on in this little boy's life, Danny's. I think she's a little too self-involved. So I think for me, it was really sad when I was reading the script for the first time because I thought, how am I going to be mean to him? And then I thought, Nuala, you have to do your job and act. um, but yeah, I think it was important for me to be as cruel as possible. Um, just be, one of those awful girls in high school. Everyone's encountered with them. I did not have a good high school experience. So it was interesting for me to approach this because maybe I was channeling some things in my childhood. Um, but yeah, making
And
people empathize for Danny, it was important.
well, like I said, you did a great job because I really hated your character watching. Is it
Thank
hard?
you.
Is it hard playing a character that is inherently going to be unlikable?
Um, it's kind of fun. I mean, she is so opposite of me. But it is fun. Playing the villain can sometimes be fun, but watching it back, it is a little bit like, ooh. And I remember at the premiere, my agent, she was watching it for the first time, and she said, "Why are you? I didn't know you could be so mean." I said, "Well, well, all I can say is that I was doing my job." People thought I was mean, so that's all I could ask for, I guess.
So you're going on record by saying you're not mean. So do not buy what you see because some people are. They're like, oh, that lady's such a jerk. You can tell by the character.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm not nobody's perfect, but I do not think that I am like Edith.
now,
No.
now you don't have to answer this question at all, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
Okay.
Now, obviously, in the history with Danny, in the book and the true story, there's a question if whether or not his dissociative disorder was real or something he was making up to get away with things. Having done the research, where did you stand on that, and where do you believe the show stands on that?
With the documentary. I
Right.
mean, well, the documentary, I it was done really well. I mean, the way that documentary ended, but I believe him.
Okay.
I think I do, but it also there lies the question of how do you how does the justice system help these women that were so so hurt by this person
Yeah.
and everyone else who was involved with him. And so I do believe that there needs to be justice, but I also believe him because I mean in the documentary they said, is he the best liar in the world or is there actually
Mm.
something going on? And about the show, I think you're just gonna have to find out.
Good. That's well done.
Thank you.
So, I mean, obviously, everyone knows the show stars Tom Holland and also Emma Laird. So, what we like to work with.
Oh, lovely, lovely individuals. I loved working with them. Emma and I became super close. That's my girl. Love her to death. And we became like little, like we became best friends through the show. It was so much fun to work with her. Tom is brilliant. He is just, I really loved watching him work. I mean, I think I was very inspired by watching him, honestly, and especially his prep work, I was really impressed by. He took, I think I'm okay saying this, but he took drawing classes to prepare for this role. He, before every take, he would really, I mean, everyone knows he's a brilliant actor, but I think in this role especially, he really shows so much range and a lot of strength. And I know it took a toll on him, because anyone living with this character every day on set who's so tortured and so troubled, and it can really be hard to leave it at work and not take it home with you. So I was really impressed by the stamina and his range. That's for sure. And
Now,
Emma's brilliant too. She's wonderful.
Of course. I mean, like, they both did fantastic. It's the episodes I've been able to watch, because obviously the series isn't over yet, is really well done. And when you're thinking about, once again, someone like Tom Holland, when you have someone with that level of celebrity, is it hard to interact with them at you're at the same level as everyone else? Because once again, you got to not only got to act alongside them, but you also got to be mean to them and just everything else. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I think for me, I know myself enough that because of the preparation I do attacking any role, and the work that I put into it all before, as soon as a camera goes in front of me, I'm ready, and I'm good. And of course I'll slip up every once in a while. I'm, just like everybody else, but I think for me, if the nerves start hitting, it'll be okay, because I know that I've done enough prep work, and I know that the lines are just in my body. I know the story, I know what's happening in my objective. And so when working with him, it was quite it was really smooth, because I felt like we were the characters and we were the actors. And then I got to know him as a person. So and he's also super lovely. And that was an interesting dynamic too, but because I felt so new and a little green, I suppose, coming into it, but I felt really taken care of by everyone on set. And we all, it was just, we became a little family. It was wonderful.
Well, one other aspect of the show is that, once again, it's a very heavy show, kind of grim. Now, I can't imagine living for weeks in such a grim kind of atmosphere. So what did you guys do, I mean, to lighten the set? I mean, was the atmosphere on the set that same level of heaviness? Did you do anything to kind of lighten it up? And kind of like, how did you deal with that kind of difficult mindset of coming to work every day and kind of being like engrossed in this like sadness?
Well, I definitely can't speak for Tom and what he went through when he was on his own doing these things, but when I was on set, it was mostly all of my other cast members who played all the high school kids. And whenever we were on set all together, was always such a fun day. So yes, the topics are heavy and the script is the lightest matter, but when we were on set together, we would just have so much fun together, because you have a lot of time not filming as well. So we just hang out and laugh. And Sam, actually, he would bring his dog Duke to work, and we would throw the ball around for him. And so having a dog on set always helps, I think. We should have many dogs on we should have had many dogs on the set, just emotional support animals.
I can see that.
Yeah. But yeah, super fun.
Now, obviously, there's more episodes to come. Does Eden appear in any more of the upcoming episodes of the series?
Yes, she does.
Can you give our listeners a little bit of details about that?
No, I cannot.
Well, so what can we look forward to from the show and from you specifically?
Well, I think from the show, I think the audience members are really going to like it. I think it ties up really well. There's some shows out there that the mystery's there, and then you keep watching because the mystery's there, and then the season ends and you still don't have an answer, and it's the most frustrating thing.
Yes.
This is not that. So I think this is the type of show that people will go back and watch again, just to see all the little Easter eggs and the clues and, picking up the pieces. And yeah, for me, I'm just excited that people are watching and they are enjoying it. But there was a lot of hard work that went into it, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it.
So what's next for you?
Well, there are a few things, but I just had a film premiere at Tribeca Film Festival, and I'm excited for people to see that. That was with Billy Porter and Luke Evans, and it's called Our Son. Beautiful, beautiful film about divorce and family and love. And then I have another one premiering in September called 3 Birthdays, which I star along Josh Radnor and Annie Parise. So I'm excited for people to see that. I'm excited for them to be out. I don't know exactly when they're going to be out for the public, but yeah, that's really exciting. And hopefully this strike goes through well for the writers and for everyone, because we need to nip that in the bud.
Indeed, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Well, for no other reason why I wanted to keep talking to actors about the roles. We need scripts to have roles, to have movies to talk about. So that needs to happen.
Yeah.
So like I said, when you're ready to talk about the other projects, please come back on the show, and let's all wish the writer's strike well.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. All right. Bye-bye.